Welcome to Listen English Story. Today's title is The Church. Chapter 1. The bus driver kept looking at Amber. He was staring at her through the rearview mirror, and she noticed he had been doing it for some time. It was making her uncomfortable. Amber glanced at the empty seats on the bus. It was a big city bus, and she was the last passenger. The city was quiet since it was almost 2 a.m. He keeps looking at me, Amber thought. Maybe he thinks I'm pretty, but he looks like a hairy, jungly at me, wild man. She tried to ignore him and looked out the window into the darkness. They passed by dark buildings with no lights on, and there were barely any cars on the road. Suddenly, Amber realized she didn't recognize the street they were on. This wasn't the route the bus was supposed to take. Alarmed, Amber looked at the driver. He was driving and smiling for no reason. What is this guy doing? She thought. She got up from her seat, holding her small purse. The bus ride had been smooth, but as she started walking toward the front, the bus hit a pothole and Amber almost fell. She grabbed onto a seat to catch herself. The bus driver laughed. He hit that pothole on purpose, Amber thought. "Sit down, Missy," the driver said, breathing heavily after each sentence. "The road is rough now." "Excuse me, but what road is this?" "Are you lost?" she asked. "What do you mean? I never get lost." He laughed loudly, showing his missing teeth. He scratched his beard and coughed. "I told you to sit down. You don't want to hurt that pretty head of yours." Amber didn't think it was funny. She had heard stories about things like this happening, but she wasn't scared yet. She held her purse tighter and walked closer to the driver. "Tell me, where are you going? I don't recognize this road. This isn't the right way." "It's right for me," the driver said in a strange tone. He stopped looking in the mirror and turned to stare at her. His beard was full of crumbs, his eyes were red, and even from a distance, Amber could smell how bad he stank. Did this guy even shower this year? Amber thought. Suddenly, the driver reached out toward her. Amber stepped back, and he laughed again. "I'm just kidding," he said, still breathing hard. "Don't worry. I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing." Amber felt uneasy and sat down, wondering if she should call someone. "He's acting strange, but maybe he is lost," she thought. Sometimes new drivers get confused, and maybe he doesn't want to admit it. Maybe he's embarrassed. The driver slowed the bus down. Amber looked out the window. There were no streetlights or signs. Why is he slowing down? Is he turning around? "Almost there," the driver said, taking a sip from a plastic bottle. Amber didn't think it was water. The bus pulled into an old, empty parking lot. The lot had no cars. Only broken glass and trash scattered around. There was a stray dog walking nearby. The area was dark with no lights. The driver stopped the bus, took off his seatbelt, and said, "Last stop. Time for all pretty girls to get off my bus." Amber stood up but shook her head. "This isn't my stop. What are you doing?" "You'll find out soon," he said, pointing at the open bus door. "Get off the bus." Amber took out her phone, but before she could make a call, the driver moved quickly toward her. She pressed the call button, and it dialed her sister. "Hi, sis," said her sister Aisha. "Do you know what time it is?" The driver slapped the phone out of Amber's hand. "Help! I'm on a bus, and the driver is acting crazy," Amber yelled. The driver stomped on her phone, breaking it. He raised his arms, blocking the way out. Amber couldn't escape through the front door. "I should have gotten out earlier," she thought. "But every bus has an emergency exit." She turned and ran toward the back of the bus. The driver followed her, but he was slow and out of breath. Amber reached the emergency exit door, turned the handle, and kicked at the driver. He stopped for a second, gasping for air. "Don't run from me," he said. "I'm not a fast runner." Amber opened the door and jumped out, but twisted her ankle and fell to her knees. The driver slowly stepped down after her. He was in bad shape, but smiled, knowing she couldn't run fast now. He was in no hurry. Chapter 2. Amber saw an old, abandoned warehouse nearby. The parking lot they were in belonged to the warehouse, but the business had closed down long ago. Most of the businesses in this part of town were closed, and there weren't any houses around either. This was the emptiest part of the city. Even if she screamed, no one would hear her. "Why did you bring me here?" Amber asked. She knew it was a silly question, but she wanted to keep him talking. Maybe she could convince him that he was making a mistake and didn't want to hurt her. "You need to be more patient," the driver said as he walked toward her. His walk was strange, almost like a duck. "I'll tell you soon. I'm going to teach you until you understand why I brought you here." "You're crazy," Amber yelled, stepping back. "Help! Someone help me! Love is crazy, and I love you," he shouted, laughing and spitting on the ground. "Scream all you want, but no one's coming." Amber looked around, realizing he was right. She was all alone. Then Amber saw a small light in the distance. It was coming from a tiny old building behind the warehouse. The light flickered like it came from a candle. "Is that a candle?" she wondered. If there's a candle, someone must be inside. They wouldn't leave a candle burning by itself. She ran toward the flickering light, even though her ankle hurt. The man was still coming after her, and he wasn't going to stop. "There's no reason to run," he said, struggling to catch up. "You'll like me once you get to know me better." "That's never going to happen," Amber shouted. "Stay away from me." "Where are you going? There's no one out here." Even though her foot hurt, she kept moving. The building with the candle seemed like her only hope. The night was unusually dark, with thick clouds covering the stars and the moon. But then Amber noticed something on top of the building, a cross. "Is that a church? Out here in the middle of nowhere?" As she got closer, she saw it was indeed a church. It looked abandoned, with broken windows and falling boards. The grass around the church was overgrown. No one's been here in years. Why is there a candle burning? Could someone be living here? Even if it was a homeless person, Amber decided it was better than facing the crazy bus driver alone. The front door of the church was unlocked. Amber hurried inside. She saw the candle in the window and realized there were candles in every window, but no people around. She shut the door behind her. Oh no, there's no lock on this door. The bus driver was still outside, walking fast but not running. He was too out of shape to run and out of breath. "I told you not to make me chase you," he said, peeking through the window. His face was covered in sweat, and he looked more like an animal than a man. "Stop! My sister will call the police." "You heard me call her." "Yeah, but she doesn't know where you are," the driver replied, holding up her broken phone. "The police can't track your phone now," he said, smiling his creepy smile. "Now stop running. You have nowhere else to go." Amber stepped back. She needed to block the door. There were some heavy benches in the church, so she tried to drag one toward the door, but it was too late. The bus driver was already coming in. "Help!" she shouted again. Someone had to be in the church because of the candles. Who lit them? The driver pushed his way inside. Amber swung her fist at him, but missed. "Whoa, relax," he said. "I don't want to fight you." "You tricked me," Amber shouted. "You live here, don't you?" "Are you kidding?" the driver said, throwing her broken phone aside. "I have a nice apartment. I'd never live in a church." "That's just weird." "But you set up the candles to trick me into coming here." "You're wrong. I didn't light the candles, but yeah, it was a trick to get you inside." Suddenly, Amber heard someone else in the church. Another person was there. A tall, skinny man with long black hair stepped out from behind a curtain. He was dressed in an old, worn-out black suit. At first, Amber thought he might be a preacher, but like the bus driver, this man smelled awful, and he looked very hungry. "Hey, Fred," the man said to the bus driver. "Good catch tonight, but next time, bring me something to eat. You know I love a good cheeseburger." "Stop complaining," Fred said, "and don't call me by name. Now she knows it." "So what? Who's she going to tell?" the man replied. Amber was trapped. Fred was by the door, and the other man was getting closer. "You're right," Fred said, staring at Amber with his red eyes. The dead don't tell secrets. Chapter 3. Amber begged the two men, "You don't have to do this. You can stop now. You can let me go." The fake preacher looked at Fred, the bus driver, and said, "You're very convincing, young lady." He smelled terrible, like a dirty bathroom. Amber watched as he reached into his pocket, wondering what he was going to do. He pulled out half of a cheese sandwich and started eating. "You think we should let you go?" "Yes," Amber said. "And you won't tell anyone?" he asked. "No, I swear," she replied. "You won't tell anyone what we were going to do? If you let me go, I won't say anything," Amber promised. "But have you two done this to other people before?" Fred laughed and coughed. "Sometimes. A guy needs a hobby, right?" He wiped sweat from his beard and took a step closer. "Look, honey, you can't talk your way out of this. We're not letting you go. So relax." "Wait," the preacher said. "Let her talk. There's no hurry." "I like the sound of her voice." "I prefer the sound of her screaming," Fred replied. "Talking is boring." Amber held up her purse. "Listen, I'm giving you a chance. You don't have to do this." You can stop anytime. The preacher sat down on a bench, crossing his legs and staring at her. He seemed interested. You're giving us a chance? You have no power here. You're our prisoner. She just likes to talk. Fred said, tell her to stop so we can get this over with. Amber ignored Fred and sat next to the preacher. I'm saying, you're both adults. You can choose to do the right thing. You don't have to hurt people. Yes, I'm your prisoner, and I have no power. But you have the power to let me go right now. And you don't have to do this ever again. We enjoy doing this, Fred said, folding his arms. And if you don't shut up, I'm going to... What? Kill me? Amber interrupted. I already know you're going to kill me. So, I have nothing to lose, do I? Oh, you've got something to lose, Fred said. And you're about to lose it very soon. Then let me pay you to let me go, Amber said, opening her purse. I have $1,000. I'll give it to you if you let me go. The preacher shook his head. The money is already ours. Everything you have belongs to us now. Darren, stop talking to her, Fred said. Oh, you didn't want me to call you Fred, but now you're using my name? Darren replied, standing up. Yeah, because you were right, Fred said, taking a deep breath. What difference does it make now, Darren? Who's she going to tell? You're both right, Amber said. I won't tell anyone, and neither will you. Amber calmly took a small gun out of her purse and shot Darren once. She stood up and pointed the gun at Fred, who raised his hands in fear. Amber kept her eyes on him, then shot Darren 2 more times to make sure he was dead. Don't kill me, Fred begged. We were just messing around. We weren't really going to hurt you. You said you've done this before? Amber asked. No, I was lying. It wasn't true. I only said that to scare you. I gave you every chance to let me go, didn't I? Over and over, I told you to stop, she said, pointing the gun at his stomach. This didn't have to end this way. I swear, Fred said, sweating again and trying to back away, but he bumped into a bench. We weren't going to do anything to you. We were going to let you go. No, you weren't. We were. We weren't going to hurt you. But I'm going to hurt you, Amber said, shooting him twice. She was an expert with guns. She knew where to shoot to avoid killing him right away. Fred fell to the ground, screaming in pain. He wasn't going to die immediately, but he wouldn't last long. Amber sat down to rest her injured foot. My sister and I have a little game we like to play, she said. We've been doing it for almost a year. We stay out late, waiting for someone like you to try something stupid. Her foot felt better, so she stood up and picked up one of the burning candles. We let the person try to take us, and then, when they least expect it, we kill them, she explained, pouring some melted wax onto Fred's beard. He screamed in pain. You tricked us, Fred shouted. You tricked me first, Amber replied. I gave you a chance to stop. Do you want to give me the same chance? Should I stop? She pointed the gun at his head. I have 1 bullet left. Yes, you can stop. You don't have to shoot me again, Fred pleaded. Okay, Amber said, putting the gun back in her purse. "You convinced me. I won't shoot you again." But then Amber held the candle to Fred's pants, setting them on fire. She quickly ran out of the old church, picking up her broken phone on the way out. Of course, she had another working phone in her bag. Amber's twin sister, Aisha, pulled up in her car just in time. "Hi, sis," Aisha said as Amber got in. "Looks like you won tonight." The identical twin sisters sat in the car as the church started to catch fire. "Thanks for playing Twins Revenge," Amber said, smiling as her sister drove away.